5 Creepy Mysteries. Number 5. Benjamin Kyle. On August the 31st of 2004 at 5 a.m. in the morning, a Burger King employee in Richmond Hill, Georgia, found an unconscious, sunburnt, nude man between two dumpsters. He had 3 depressions in his skull that appeared to have been caused by blunt force trauma, and he also had red ant bites on his body. He had no identification and could not remember his name. He was taken to St. Joseph's Candler Hospital. 2 weeks later, he was transferred to Memorial Health University Medical Center, where records state that he was semi-conscious. After waking up, he was asked for his name by hospital staff. He remembered that his name was Benjamin, spelled with 2 A's, but could not recall his last name. He came up with the surname Kyle from his police and hospital placeholder name. After being released from the hospital, Kyle spent several years between Grace House Men's Shelter and hospitals. For many years after his amnesia, Kyle was homeless and had been unable to obtain employment as he was unable to remember his full Social Security number. In February of 2015, forensic genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick reported that she was coming close to finding Kyle's DNA match. On September the 16th, 2015, Kyle announced that his real identity had been found, including his name and family members. His real name turned out to be William Burgess Powell. While trying to find out his true identity, many methods were used, such as hypnosis, fingerprint comparison, Y-DNA test, and searches on mtDNA online databases, facial recognition comparison, and many other attempts. Number 4. John Doe number 24. On the morning of October the 11th, 1945, police found an unidentified African-American teenager wandering the streets of Jacksonville, Illinois. The young man was mute and deaf and was unable to communicate. He was eventually placed in the Lincoln State School Colony. Because he was the 24th unidentified man to be placed into the state's mental health care system, he became known as John Doe number 24. Sadly, number 24 was subject to years of abuse at the state institution. After being at the mental institution for 30 years, he finally was transferred to a nursing home. John Doe number 24 passed away in November of 1993. His identity was never discovered and remains a mystery to this day. Number 3. The Persian Princess. Pakistani authorities were alerted to a videotape recorded by Ali Akbar, in which he claimed to have a mummy for sale. When questioned by the police, Akbar told them where the mummy was located, at the house of tribal leader Wali Muhammad Riki in Kairan, Baluchistan, near the border of Afghanistan. Riki claimed that he had received the mummy from an Iranian named Sharif Shahbaki, who had said that he found it after an earthquake near Quetta. The mummy had been put up for sale for 600 million rupee, the equivalent of $11 million. In a press conference on October the 26th, archaeologist Ahmad Hassan Dani announced that the mummy seemed to be a princess, dated circa 600 BC. The mummy was wrapped in ancient Egyptian style and rested in a gilded wooden coffin. Archaeologists speculated that she might have been an Egyptian princess married to a Persian prince, or a daughter of Cyrus the Great, of Achaemenid dynasty of Persia. The governments of Iran and Pakistan soon began to argue about the ownership of the mummy. A piece of the coffin was sent to be carbon dated. Analysis showed that the coffin was only around 250 years old. This, of course, raised suspicion of a forgery, and a more in-depth investigation was conducted. On April the 17th, 2001, it was announced that the Persian princess was in fact a modern woman about 21 to 25 years of age, who had died around 1996, possibly killed with a blunt instrument to the lower back pelvic region. Her teeth had been removed after death, and her hip joint, pelvis, and backbone damaged, before the body had been filled with powder. Police began to investigate a possible murder and arrested a number of suspects in Baluchistan. Number 2. Joseph Newton Chandler III. Joseph Newton Chandler III is the alias of an unidentified man who committed suicide in Eastlake, Ohio in July of 2002. After his death, investigators were unable to locate his family and discovered that he had stolen the identity of an 8-year-old boy who was killed in a car crash in Texas in 1945. The unidentified man stole the real Chandler's identity in September of 1978 in Rapid City, South Dakota, after applying for a Social Security card. The unknown man was described as being a hermit who only left his home to go to work and to eat. He also took part in behavior perceived as eccentric, such as listening to white noise for hours, and once drove to an LL Bean store in Maine, a drive of at least 10 hours and 700 miles, only to promptly turn around and drive back to Ohio after discovering that there were no spots available in the store's parking lot. The unknown man's body was discovered in his apartment on July the 30th of 2002. He was believed to have killed himself about a week earlier. He had committed suicide by shooting himself. The man in question had recently been diagnosed with colon cancer, which may have influenced his decision to commit suicide. He also had $82,000 in his bank account. Authorities are confident that the man was a fugitive of some kind. There have been many theories as to what he may have been running from, none of which have been determined. Some internet sleuths have suggested that he may be the Zodiac Killer, as he resembled police sketches of the Zodiac and had lived in California where the Zodiac operated. Another theory is that he was Stephen Campbell, an engineer from Cheyenne, Wyoming, wanted for attempted murder. Authorities have also considered that he may have been a German soldier or Nazi official from the Second World War that had escaped to the United States. The man was a white male aged 65 to 70 who was 5 feet 7 inches tall and weighed 160 pounds. He had graying brown hair and gray eyes. Number 1. Roland Doe. In the late 1940s in the United States, priests of the Roman Catholic Church performed a series of exorcisms on an anonymous boy documented under the pseudonym Roland Doe, or Robbie Mannheim. The 14-year-old boy was the alleged victim of demonic possession, and the events were recorded by the attending priest Raymond Bishop. Subsequent supernatural claims surrounding the events were used as elements in the 1971 novel The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty and the 1973 film adaptation. In mid-1949, several newspaper articles printed anonymous reports of an alleged possession and exorcism. The source for these reports is thought to be the family's former pastor, Luther Miles Schultz. According to one account, a total of 48 people witnessed this exorcism. 9 of them were Jesuits. Roland was born into a German Lutheran family. During the 1940s, the family lived in Cottage City, Maryland. According to author Thomas B. Allen, Roland was an only child and depended upon adults in his household for playmates, primarily his Aunt Harriet. His aunt, who was a spiritualist, introduced Roland to the Ouija board when he expressed interest in it. According to Thomas B. Allen, after Aunt Harriet's death, the family experienced strange noises, furniture moving on its own, and ordinary objects such as vases flying or levitating when the boy was nearby. The family turned to their Lutheran pastor, Luther Miles Schultz, for help. According to the traditional story, the boy then underwent a number of exorcisms. Perhaps the most curious question about the exorcism of Roland Doe is whatever happened to him. The available accounts seem to agree that he reached adulthood without further incident and became a well-adjusted family man. Some sources claim that he took a job working for the government. Most sources agree that Roland Doe remembered nothing of the possession or the subsequent exorcisms. This has been the Crypto Files.